whispers drift through the unseen corridors of existence, murmuring tales of those who stand apart, not by birthright, not by fortune, but by the silent trials that sculpt them into something greater. These are not trials of muscle or wit. You won't find them marked by trophies or titles. No, these are the tests that burrow into the deepest corners of the soul, pressing against the very fabric of one's being. If you know these trials exist, you're already among the few. But even fewer have the strength to endure, to emerge from the crucible forever changed, unrecognizable from who they once were. These trials are not announced with grand fanfare. There is no applause, no spotlight. They come in the quiet moments, the ones most people rush to escape. They slip into the mind in the dead of night, whispering doubts, unraveling certainties. They are not meant to break you, but they will if you resist them. The only way through is surrender, courage, and an unshakable willingness to face the void. Because this journey is not about proving yourself to the world. It's about stripping away every illusion until all that remains is the raw, unvarnished truth of who you really are. The first test comes in disguise. It is the moment you are forced to let go of everything you thought made you who you are. Titles, relationships, material things, the anchors you've clung to for so long. Who are you without them? Imagine looking into a mirror, not seeing the version of yourself the world knows, but something deeper. A reflection unfiltered by social expectations, free from the masks you've carefully constructed. Most people turn away, terrified of what they might find. It's easier to stay cocooned in the safety of an identity built on external validation. But the ones who are truly chosen, they hold their gaze. They ask the question that pierces through every illusion. Who am I? This moment is not comfortable. It is the abyss staring back. It is the unraveling of every belief you once held about yourself. And yet, this confrontation is necessary. Only those willing to shed their illusions can step into their true power. Then comes the test that most fear even before they realize they're facing it. The test of isolation. In a world drowning in noise, in constant connectivity, silence can feel like suffocation. But this test is not about the absence of sound. It's about the absence of distraction. Imagine sitting alone in a dimly lit room. No screens, no music, no validation from the outside world. Just you and the echoes of your own thoughts. At first, the silence is deafening. The mind rebels, dragging up fears, regrets, insecurities, anything to fill the emptiness. Most people flee. They reach for their phone, turn on the TV, call a friend. Anything to avoid facing the truth that rises in the stillness. But the chosen ones, they stay. They listen, not just to the noise of their thoughts, but to the voice beneath it all. The one that has been waiting to be heard. Because in the silence, the world fades away and something else emerges. Clarity. And only those who can embrace this solitude will uncover the wisdom buried within. Then comes a test more subtle, but just as powerful. The test of release. People cling to memories, to dreams, to relationships, to pain. The belief that holding on gives them control is an illusion. The tighter the grip, the heavier the burden. Imagine hands clenched tightly, fingers digging into the past, holding on to things long gone. But then, the fingers slowly loosen, the hands open, and in that moment, something shifts. A weight lifts. Freedom rushes in. Letting go isn't surrendering. It isn't giving up. It's choosing to trust. Trust that what is meant for you will remain, and what is not will fall away. This is not a lesson you learn once. Life will test you again and again, asking you to decide. Will you cling to what's comfortable, or will you release and trust the unknown? The ones who are chosen, they understand. True strength is not found in grasping, but in releasing, because only when you let go do you make space for what is truly meant to be. And then, when you think you've endured all you can, the darkest test of all arrives, the dark night of the soul. It does not come with warning. It does not announce itself. It crashes into your world like a storm, tearing through everything you thought was solid. The foundations crumble. The path vanishes. Dreams you once clung to dissolve into nothing. It feels like walking through an endless void with no end in sight. This is where most people break. They give in to despair, believing the darkness is all that remains. But for the ones who endure, this is not an ending. It is a purification. Because the darkness is not there to destroy you. It is there to strip away every illusion, every false belief, every layer of the self that was never truly you. And those who refuse to let their inner light go out will emerge, not as they were, Xerenia, but as something transformed. And just when the darkness begins to lift, another trial stands in its place, the test of faith. But not faith in a deity, not faith in a doctrine. This test is deeper. It is faith in yourself, faith in the unseen, faith that even when everything seems lost, the path still exists beneath your feet. Imagine standing in complete darkness, holding nothing but a flickering candle. The wind threatens to snuff it out. The shadows press in. Every logical thought screams at you to give up, to turn back. But faith is not about certainty. It is about stepping forward, even when the path is hidden. The chosen ones know this. They do not pretend the darkness isn't real. They simply refuse to believe that the darkness is the whole story. And so, they move forward, step by step, trusting that the light will return. And then comes the final test, the one that shatters every illusion of control, the test of surrender. People believe control gives them power. They strategize, they plan, they fight to shape life according to their will. But life does not obey. It twists, it turns, it shatters plans without warning. And so, surrender is not defeat. It is mastery. It is the moment you release the illusion of control and align with the current of life itself. Imagine a person standing at the edge of an ocean, arms outstretched, eyes closed, letting the waves carry them instead of fighting against the tide. This is surrender, not passivity, not weakness, but trust. Trust that wherever life takes you, it is exactly where you need to be. And finally, when all the trials have been faced, when the illusions have been stripped away, the last moment arrives, the awakening. It is not a grand revelation. It is not a thunderous epiphany. It is a quiet knowing, a realization that you were never separate from life. You are life. The trials were never obstacles. They were the path itself. And when this truth settles into your bones, when you feel it in every breath, in every heartbeat, the journey is no longer about survival. It becomes something else, something greater. It becomes the art of truly living. There is a moment when everything shifts, when the weight you've carried for so long suddenly lifts, not because the struggles have disappeared, but because you finally understand they were never meant to break you. They were meant to reveal you. The tests, the darkness, the silence, the letting go. It was all preparing you for this, the moment of awakening. But this final test is not about struggle. It is about realization, a recognition that you are not just moving through life, but that life is moving through you, that you are not merely surviving, but experiencing, that you are not separate from the universe. You are the universe, seeing itself through your eyes, feeling itself through your heart, shaping itself through your choices. The ones who reach this point don't see the world as they once did. The illusions that once seemed so real, status, fear, doubt, control, begin to fade, replaced by something deeper, something that cannot be explained, only felt. A profound knowing that everything, every trial, every tear, every moment of despair was leading to this. But before one can reach this final stage, they must endure one last trial, the hardest test of all, the test of authenticity. It is one thing to wake up to your truth. It is another to live it, to walk through a world that demands conformity, that rewards the inauthentic, and still choose to be exactly who you are, without masks, without apologies, without fear. This test comes in many forms. It comes when you are asked to betray yourself for the approval of others, when you are given the choice to stay silent to fit in, or to speak even if it means standing alone. It comes when the world tempts you with comfort, with acceptance, with belonging, but only if you abandon the truth of who you are. Most people fail this test. They shrink themselves to be palatable. They trade their essence for acceptance. They dim their light so others aren't uncomfortable. But the chosen ones, they refuse. They do not bend. They do not compromise. They stand in their truth, even when it costs them everything, because they understand losing the world is nothing compared to losing yourself. And so they walk unshaken, untouched by the opinions of those who have not yet awakened. They are not concerned with fitting in because they were never meant to. They were meant to lead, to light the way for those still trapped in illusion, to show, not through words, but through being, that there is another way to exist, a way that is raw, real, free. But make no mistake, this path is not easy. The more you step into your truth, the more the world will test you. It will throw doubt in your way. It will whisper in your ear that you are lost, that you are alone, that you are making a mistake. And this is where most people turn back. They retreat into the familiar, into the comfortable, into the safety of illusion. But those who do not turn back, they cross the final threshold, and suddenly everything makes sense. Because the moment you stop seeking outside of yourself is the moment you realize you were never lacking, you were never broken, you were never in need of saving. You were always enough. And in that moment, something shifts. The weight of expectations dissolves. The fear of judgment fades. The endless search for meaning ends. Not because you found the answer, but because you became it. There is no longer a need to chase, to prove, to seek. There is only presence. And in presence, there is peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from having everything figured out, but the kind that comes from knowing you don't need to. The kind that does not depend on external circumstances, but simply is. It is in this space that you understand. The tests were never punishments. The suffering was never pointless. Every tear, every loss, Every moment of doubt was a doorway, a threshold you had to cross to arrive here. And now, you see that you were never walking alone, that the universe was always guiding you, always whispering, always waiting for you to be ready. And now you are, because awakening is not an ending. It is the beginning of true life. The moment you stop surviving and start living. The moment you realize that you were never meant to fit into this world. You were meant to change it. And now, the only question that remains is, will you? Will you take what you have learned and live it? Will you walk in your truth, even when the world pushes back? Will you choose freedom over comfort, purpose over approval, truth over illusion? Because the journey does not end here. It only begins. And for those who are truly chosen, there is no going back. There is only forward, into the unknown, into the infinite, into the life you were always meant to live.